Hi, so today I'm going to be talking about why it's important that we keep public lands in public hands and defend these public lands from the land heist. Now, one example that I just want to get straight into is the Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument. And it was a 1.9 million acre piece of land protected by the government for public use. But in 2017, President Trump reduced the size of this monument by 46%, leaving the land to be used for oil drilling and other harmful activities, according to Brugger. Now, this was just very shocking to me, and the fact of the matter is, it is one of many lands in the United States that are being threatened by transferences. And as you can see in this graphic, the dark area is where the land is now protected, and the light area is where it used to be. So you can see about half of the land is gone and now being used for oil drilling and other harmful activities, which is just crazy to think about, that you're no longer able to hike or enjoy the beautiful scenery in this land. And there has been an impact in my own backyard, and that is why I'm so passionate about this topic today. Strawberry Fields is a place in a canyon about 5 minutes away from my house, and my friends and I used to hike, hammock, bike there all the time, enjoy the beautiful scenery as you can see in that picture. But the land in 2016 was traded to a resort nearby called the Broadmoor, and they want to build stables in this beautiful open field and other structures, obstructing the view and making it no longer open to the public, which is just very sad. And so after this happened, about my sophomore year of high school, I was motivated to learn more about why it's important to protect public lands and make sure that they remain in public hands. So let's talk. What are we going to focus on today? I really just want to talk about who owns or protects public lands now, because that could be a little bit of a confusing question. And then I want to move on to what exactly is being threatened, because that is the most important thing, is what are we going to lose if these public land transferences happen. And finally, I'll end with what you can do to help right here, right now. And I think that's the most important thing, is taking action and making sure these public lands stay protected. Now, the Bureau of Land Management owns 1 out of every 10 acres of land in the United States. And so what is it? According to their website, they're a government organization committed to promoting conservation through shared stewardship, managing our borders effectively, promoting jobs on working landscapes, and serving the American family, which includes being good neighbors and recognizing the traditional uses of public land, i.e. hunting, fishing, and other recreational opportunities. Now, that came straight from their website. And so they basically just manage public lands and make sure the uses that are going on in them are appropriate and protecting the land for all to enjoy. Now, next, what's the issue right now? What is going on that is going to threaten these public lands? And that is something called the land heist, or the land transfer. And basically, according to Crawl Hall, the other pattern is that the privatization of lands and resources poses a direct threat to existing protected areas and other area-based conservative efforts. And so basically what's happening is public lands are currently owned federally by things like the Bureau of Land Management, as we saw, but now states want the rights to this land, and they really just want the land to go away from public hands and into privatization to extract natural resources. Now, an example of this is in California, and Senate Bill 50, or SB 50, is something that was put in place in California to protect these public lands and to make sure the transferences were more regulated. And according to Blankley, SB 50 regulates the private purchaser through the recording restriction and treating purchases of federal public lands with sensitive resources differently from other land transfers. So they are making sure that these lands are staying protected. But the Trump administration challenged this, and they didn't want this to go through because they want the transference of public lands to happen so that natural resources can be extracted from these lands, which is very dangerous to the ecosystems, but we'll get onto that a little bit later. And so what happens on public land uses? Why should we protect these public lands? And one big reason is a majority of people want to keep these lands public but aren't aware that they are even at risk. According to Lown Hecht, I don't know if I pronounced that right, the new public land heist is far more insidious because it would slowly transfer authority on public lands away from the public, so slowly that most people wouldn't even notice. And that's the scary thing. A lot of people want these public lands to stay public, but the government is doing it in a sneaky way so that we aren't even aware that they aren't public anymore. And so public lands are so important to people because according to Protect Our Public Land, 43% of paddling, which includes stand-up paddleboarding, kayaking, canoeing, happens on public lands. Over 193,500 miles of hiking trails are on public lands. 71% of rock climbing occurs on public lands. And 12,659 miles of mountain biking are on public lands. And to me, it's so important that we keep this available to people. And it would just be a shame to see these public lands transfer over into private hands so that we are no longer able to enjoy the outdoors and all these activities that happen on them. So another thing I want to address is the environmental consequences that happen when these land transferences go through. So many of these companies that the land is being transferred to want to use the land for natural resources, and this causes a huge impact on the environment. According to a source I found, natural resources exploitation, exploration, mining, and processing have caused different types of environmental damages, which include but aren't limited to ecological disturbances, destruction of natural flora and fauna, pollution of water, air, and land, instability of soil and rock masses, landscape degradation, and desertification and global warming. And these are all just some of the effects that happen. And habitats like what this beautiful elk in Colorado is viewing are destroyed and they're no longer able to have that home. So it's important that keeping these public lands also makes sure that the environment stays healthy as well. Now, some people say that there are benefits to land transfers, and advocates believe that state natural resources are being mismanaged and feel each state deserves a larger piece of the pie. And that's definitely very motivated by monetary gain. But the facts are that this land is for the public and it has been set aside for that, so it should remain that way. And also, states don't have the resources to manage these lands. According to Collins, if the land transfers in Utah go through, Utah could fall $35 to $69 million short of management costs each year of upkeeping these public lands. That would leave the taxpayers to absorb the deficit. So it really isn't a monetary gain for anyone but companies and individuals. It's kind of just not true that it would be beneficial to do such a thing as transferring these lands. Now, finally, how can you help? You can use your voice right now. You can take your phone out, go to www.protectourpublicland.org, and just sign the petition. All it asks for is your first name, last name, email, and a zip code, I'm pretty sure, and you've just stated your support for keeping public lands public. And it's important to use our voice because a lot of people don't think that we care that this public land remains protected, but we do. And like I said earlier, a lot of people aren't even aware that these public lands are at risk. So it's important that we spread awareness for this. Thank you. And these are my works cited for all my images in my slides.